we trust what the competition is thinking, you know.
Also, they were starting to get write-ups in Rolling Stone magazine in America, which I think is unheard of, that no unsigned bands, or very few unsigned bands, have ever been written about or featured or pictured in that magazine. And here they were getting half-page stories, a couple issues in a row.
I have to say, RCA is going to kill me for this, but I knew somebody at RCA that I sent them the Strokes demo originally, and it was the one before Gordon produced it, and they passed on it. They were like, no.
When they came back, it seemed like every label in America wanted to sign the band, which if they hadn't gone to England, maybe they wouldn't have gotten any interest at all in New York, because their sound wasn't something that New York labels would understand at that time.
So the British melodrama ensures a full-on bidding war in the States, which ironically is won by RCA.
Pete, won't you keep it sweet, can you keep it neat, just release the heat!
Julian took me out to dinner and said that the label was suggesting that they use a different record producer when they actually came time to make their album. And he said, well, this guy is a very big record producer who's made lots and lots of records, but if you tell us that you're a better producer than him, we'll use you. But we have to do what's best for the band, you understand? And I thought to myself, well, we did have a good time together, but I'm not going to sit there and say that someone who's never sold any records is a better producer than someone who's sold millions and millions of records and has a wide reputation. So I said, I can't honestly look you in the eye and tell you I'm a better producer than this character. And Julian said, fuck you then, we have to use him because we have to do what's best for the band. And if you would have said it was you, we would have gone with you. And he walked away and I thought, there it goes.
Despite the success of Gordon's work on the modern age, the Strokes start laying down their first album with veteran producer Gil Norton.
I think what attributes to a lot of the different sound is the production on that album. It's just like totally different. You're like, what? And it sort of maybe went back to some of the earlier sounds. I know they don't think they sound like television, but I think the production on that is a little bit more lo-fi like that stuff was. Yeah.
It's certainly anthemic and poppy, but but not so polished. You still feel like there could be something of a revolution involved somewhere.
Their first record was, when it was recorded, was better than they were, I think, at that time.
And I was very happy. About 2 or 3 weeks later, I got a call from Julian in a very concerned voice saying that they'd done some recording with this person and they weren't at all pleased with the way it sounded, and they wanted to know if I was free to work with them again. And I said, yes, let's go to coffee right now, Julian, and talk about it. And he said, I can't, I'm in Chicago touring with the Doves. And I thought, God, he's really getting around, this young man.
I mean, the album's a great first listen. There aren't many albums that you listen to that sounds so good the first time.
I mean, I'm kind of impressed with a lot of their lyrics because they're sort of really emotional, and especially about women, and when they sing about stuff like that, it's a lot different than, this like hip-hop music, calling girls bitches and this whole thing. So, I mean, yeah, I think they get criticized because it's like, what do you know about like New York City cops? Like, you probably haven't had a run-in with them, but, they're from New York and maybe they have.
And they came back about 3 weeks later and we had a good listening session, and somehow by the end of it they circled an entire month of time in my calendar and said, let's just start the record now. And I thought, okay, here we go. And I'm sure we spent probably a tenth of a normal budget making the first record. It was done quite inexpensively and on a very small amount of gear, really. Yeah, and I was the only one engineering it at the time and taking the trash out and everything like that. So it was like a one-man operation.
Is This It takes 7 weeks to record. At the same time, the Strokes are doing their first US headlining tour and have to leave the studio most weekends to gig.
the man who was called the guru on the first album, and now he might be the sensei or the consultant, I don't know what they're calling him for this album, Mr. JP, he was responsible for teaching guitar to at least 2 or 3 of the band members, and as such did an excellent job, and is always a reference for if they want to know something stylistically, or what kind of strings were used in a 1950s recording, or what kind of guitar or pickup. This man's knowledge has definitely influenced their ability and their understanding. Under the influence of JP, Nick invented his own guitar by putting a rare pickup in one of his Epiphones. It changed it into a guitar that had never existed before, or a tone that had never existed before. And it's kind of a signature part of the Strokes guitar blend. The special P90 pickup on this Epiphone guitar.
Well, the Strokes were definitely a buzz band in the United States for a long time, because it was quite a long time between the time that the record came out in the UK and the record came out in the States. I think it was 6 months. It was quite a while, and that's a long time to be a buzz band.
Yeah, it was released 6 months earlier, which had, monumental impact on the album and the Strokes, because September 11th happened a few weeks before the album came, maybe it was like a few days before it was destined to come out. And as such, there was a political discussion amongst the band members, emotional discussion about whether the song New York City Cop should stay on the album, which changes the whole nature of the album to have one song taken off and replaced by another song. And they actually made the decision to come into my studio a week after the record was supposed to be released in America and do a brand new song from scratch and shove that onto Is This It and put it out as an attempt to be nice to all the firefighters and policemen that lost their lives helping people. And as such, the American record is completely different than the English record, and who knows what would have happened if it would have come out earlier.
So the New York terror attacks in 2001 end up having a strange effect on the fortunes of the Strokes. At a time when New Yorkers are frantically reaffirming their identities, anything positive from New York is being celebrated.
It was a great experience when that came out, because, this was like, the closest thing we'll see to the Beatles. It was like, this is a new music, and this is what music is going to be now, and hopefully. And maybe, hip-hop has sort of seen its time, and now we're going to get back to rock and roll music,
New Yorkers had such a bad year previously to, 2001, September 11th. And I think that the art and music scene has been pretty dead here for a while, and that they were really excited to have anything happening, and then they really sort of embraced these bands.
My partner started a rock and roll night pretty soon after there, which was right near the World Trade Center. It was this party called Drunk Love, and it was on John Street, which was literally 2 blocks from the World Trade Center. And the Strokes would come, and all these bands would come, and it was sort of like all these people who really wanted to hear that music and rock music coming together, and it was became a whole sort of subculture in New York again.
I noticed that a lot of the media